up with the sun, regardless of the fact that they had arrived back in Tillaen only hours before. He had taken a brief and admittedly unsatisfying nap. He'd never considered that when leaving Tibbs with Carver, he'd find himself having trouble sleeping. That was annoying. Oh well, it couldn't be helped. At least it seemed like Martine was sleeping. When Theo had left, Martine had a massive white cat on his chest. Theo wasn't entirely sure where it had come from, but he wasn't going to question him. That man seemed to live and breathe oddities. He wound his way down the streets to the merchant quarters, hand on his coins out of habit. Without Tibbs, he wasn't wholly sure some child wouldn't get a little grabby. Best to be safe. He hadn't run so thin in a long time, and only the fact that most commodities were cheap here was keeping his finances even relatively decent. He tugged at the singed sleeve of his gambeson. That would need mending. As he entered Evangeline Bai's shop, he smiled and raised a hand. "Good morning, Madame Bai. Thank you for your information. It was very helpful." He toyed with the new ring on his finger. "I need to purchase some supplies. Cloth, more healing potions, namely." Evangeline's eyes flicked down to the ring on his finger and then back up. She smiled, easily, readily, and tried to ignore her hover husband who was cleaning the display case for the 100th time. Of course. She took a few steps over to the same place she had gotten the sewing kit on his last trip and pulled a small bundle of cloth. It was placed on the counter. "So you got in a fight," was written on top in common. It was 1p. He turned a little pink when she saw the ring and shrugged a little. His smile dropped when he saw Amir. The words of every note etched into his mind. However, he tried to remind himself that the woman responsible could not harm anyone else. "Thank you. I'll also need 6 potions." That made one for each member of the party, though he wasn't sure the doll needed one. Still, it couldn't hurt to have extra, what with the way things had been going. Amir had taken everything out of the display case and cleaned it so thoroughly that they shined and looked even better than when they were new. The shelf inside the case could be eaten off of, it was so clean, and yet he had started pulling them out and cleaning them again. Honestly, the shop hadn't been this clean, well, since ever. Of course, Eve gently moved past her husband to the shining bottles and tucked them under her arm while she did so. As she moved past, she stopped and pressed a gentle kiss into his forehead. "They're clean. Can you go and get us both some water, my love?" She wanted to get his hands out of that clean. It was starting to do damage to his skin. Again. "Is there anything else I can get you?" Eve asked as she placed the potions on the counter. Amir paused, holding on to what he had been cleaning for so long before slowly nodding. He didn't just put the things down, though. He quickly put them away before heading to the back of the shop where they would have water stored. Theo watched him go with a sad look and then back down to his purchase. He wasn't even sure he could begin to imagine what that man had been through. "No, I think that's all I need for now, thank you." His eyes shifted back to where Amir had disappeared to. "Could you let him know that those in the manor were given funerary rites? All of them. I think you would be able to handle it more delicately than I could, and at a better time." He spoke quietly, frowning down at the glimmering potions as he remembered the notes and the faces of Amir's brother, Darius. The whole thing gave him the creeps. He needed to find more information. He couldn't help the people who had already been hurt, but he could prevent more if he worked hard enough. Although he wasn't sure he wanted to ask here, not with Amir in such close proximity, not when he'd already suffered so much recently. He'd have to find another source. Evangeline paused, still as if she had trained herself not to react to shocking information with shock, and she had. Then she slowly nodded, and a little smile creeped onto her face. "Thank you." An additional, bigger potion was placed in his bag, and the tally on his receipt said no good deed goes unrewarded. The price for his other goods were unchanged. Just this potion was free. "Thank you for being a friend to my family." She pushed the bag across the counter. "Have a good day." He paused with his hand in his coins and looked down and then back up, uncomfortable with the idea that she might think that he did it, or worse, find out later that it wasn't him and think that he was taking credit for something he didn't do. I did not perform them myself. That was Riley. He held his hand out as if gesturing to the height of a much shorter person. Elf, around about this tall. If her answer didn't change, he'd simply pass the larger portion on to Riley. Evangeline simply smiled a little wider, and her eyes turned to something slightly sharper. Tell him I said hello, and a second potion went into the bag. Theo blinked and smiled a little as he counted out the total he owed her. I will. Thank you. After he paid his tabs and the farewells to Evangeline by, he set out to find information. Where, he wasn't sure, but he'd figure it out. He'd wound his way through the market streets and down to the docks when he caught sight of a horde of seagulls fighting over what looked like someone's stolen plate of tacos. The Harpies. The Harpies had information. And it had been good information, as far as he could tell. It had paid, at the very least. It was somewhere to start. He looked down at his coin pouch and then sighed as he turned to go buy food that he likely wouldn't get to eat the most of. 6 onyx later, he had 3 plates of tacos, though he had combined them. The roan woman that had sold it to him seemed to approve, and mumbled something about how good it was to see someone eat properly for their size. If only she knew. 1 plate was for him. The other 2 were a bribe. With luck, he'd attract the Harpies and not the normal gulls. The seagulls were not hard to find. Not really. Anybody who had been deemed an easy mark were being actively watched, after all, and Theo was an easy-to-spot mark. It didn't take long before there were whispers. You, no, you go, you. And finally, Leah came tumbling off of a roof to land in front of him with a puff of dust and a disoriented expression. Oh, no nice, hurt, dear. Leah grumbled and rubbed her head before she looked up at Theo. What doing? Theo stifled a chuckle as he took a bite of his own taco. The food here was really growing on him. He'd have to introduce Carver to it later. Maybe at a distance. He wouldn't want to alarm anyone. I'm looking for information. If you trade, I'll share. He gestured to the plate. Leah no things. Leah just a girl. Leah blinked her glassy black seagull eyes at him. Dia know stuff. Dia washing. Try take food. Duck! Theo ducked when warned and pulled the plate closer to him to protect it. He did not want his bargaining chips stolen from him. He handed Leah a taco for the morning. She may not know things, but she had still given information. Dia made an angry screech as she flew right over Theo's head and landed on the other side about as gracefully as a seagull could. Why tell him? He nice. Leah's lower lip wobbled as she clasped her little painted nails together around the taco that she then offered to Dia. The white-haired harpy huffed and waved a hand. I get my own, Dia scowled. I want? Mia hopped down on her weird feet and put both hands out. Theo held out one of the tacos to Mia. A little goodwill couldn't hurt. I only want 3 of these. He pulled 2 toward him. The rest are yours. But I want to trade. Dia narrowed her eyes. No trust, no. Mia got her hand slapped back away from the plate. Ow! No trust taco poison. Why trust? No trust. Sister Fia died poisoned taco. No trust, no trust. Eat first. Eat first. She picked one up and thrust it at him. Theo traded the one he pulled towards him for the one she handed him and then took a bite. None are poison. You gave good information last time. I'd like more. I'm sorry to hear about your sister. All 3 of them were quiet for a little while. Dia had her eyes pointed down with an orange flush on her nose. Leah sniffed a little, and then Mia gently took the plate. Thank you. You get bad man poison, Fia? Dia looked up from under her feathered lashes. You get Dia find anything want, anything. Dia smart. Smart, Leah nodded. It would depend on who this bad man was, Theo said carefully. I can't make promises. If he is well respected locally, I have to deal with the people. He gestured toward the city around them to help them. If he is one of them, I would have to break my deal to them. Very tricky, you understand? He passed a taco up to Dia. But describe him, and perhaps I can help. Dia narrowed her eyes and hopped up on a nearby crate. Tricky is you. No one actually helps sisters. Only one knows that help you. No one knows that help us. she hissed and then vanished over the roof. Mia stood there with the plate and then scampered off with it. Leah was left with a taco and a blank expression. Sorry. Dia's still sad, still mad, want blood. She just want blood fast. Sorry. Leah stood up and offered her taco back to him. No deal, no food. Leah know how words work. Keep it. Theo shook his head. That was for the warning. I want to help, I do, but I can't help if I end up in trouble with the people here. I can't help from prison. Nobody helps sea girls if hard, but sea girls no need help if easy. Leah gently placed the taco on the ground and flew off to find her sisters. Theo sighed and rubbed his face. He had never been good with people. Apparently people, most considered monsters, himself included until recently, were no different. And on top of that, he was out 6 onyx for nothing. He'd just have to check around town and see if there was anyone gloating about killing a harpy. He got up and dusted off and then headed back into town to wait and listen. Theo is looking around and hears some stuff. There was a man buying poison, specifically for a large bird infestation in the Parliament District. The people over there remember seeing a man with an odd shining pendant around his neck feeding tacos to a harpy woman. They thought it was weird that he was doing so willingly. They're very prickly. They do remember that the pendant was gold with a garnet-colored hand carved and set in the front. It fell out when he bent over to get another taco, but he put it back. The harpy flew a little weird after that. That's all they know. Theo leaned against a wall in the shade, hot and slightly breathless after running all over town, looking for who might have done the killing. The pendant didn't sound like anyone he knew. Unfortunately, that meant he had no idea who it was. He glanced up at the sun's position and then pushed off the wall to keep looking. No one was likely to need him yet. Martine probably wasn't even awake, what with how deep he was sleeping. He could spare a little bit more time to look.